to Spiro Avenue, and we have been on the hunt for a lot of guests recently that have eluded us over the years. And tonight we got a great one for you, and I'm going to get to that in just a second. Quick shout out to Virgil's Vineyard. They make the most fantastic wine, and look, they even have a special sparkling wine for the holidays. I know they released, I think, 48 cases, and I'm sure there's probably like 6 left, so you might want to act quick. We have it right over my shoulder, and of course their classic Zin Blend Red, which is my favorite wine. We've given out quite a bit to our guests, and our next guest will have one as well. But make sure you go to www.virgilsvineyard.com. They are a great Michigan-based business. Their winery's out in Napa, of course, because no one wants those Michigan grapes, but the California grapes from a Michigan company here. Wonderful people. Check them out, Kipper family. And if you go to the website and use the discount code SPIRO, S-P-I-R-O, you will get a 10% discount on your order. Highly recommend it. If you don't like it, you're crazy or you hate wine. There's no other way to put it. So go get yourself some wine. Still can get there in time for the holidays, but you better order it right now. So check them out, virgilsvineyard.com. And without further ado, I've had a lot of people in this studio, and I've had a lot of people turn me down to appear in the studio. One that finally said yes after a long courtship, which was lasting throughout our renovations here, was Tara Stafford, who I consider to be the First Lady of Michigan State, both because she is beaming with dignity and also because if Michigan State could be married to somebody, it would probably be her. So Tara Stafford in studio. Welcome, Tara Stafford.
Thank you for having me. I mean, this studio's gorgeous.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
Thank you. And you did not make fun of me for having multiple commissioned paintings of head coach Mel Tucker on the wall. You actually appreciated it, I feel like.
And honestly, I'm a little jealous. I feel like I need to go find someone to paint me a picture of Mel Tucker because those are beautiful pieces.
I appreciate it. And I hope that I'm not like regretting that they're there. Like if he goes to Auburn in like a month or something, God knows what. But we're on the Mel train. So we're in a position now where it's going to be the Michigan State show. Everyone knows that. That's your background. That's my background. I've done shows on Michigan that, with the full hour before. We're going to touch on them just a little bit up front because I think Michigan football in particular is the big thing in the news. And I can already hear all the people saying, it's the Michigan State show. And Tara drove in from Timbuktu to be here, and you open out the gate with Michigan. So I gotta do it, though. I can hear the trolls already ringing the walls. But the fact is that the Jim Harbaugh situation is the biggest story, not in college football, but top 5 in college football, and the biggest story in the state that we happen to reside. The big news really is that their season is over and the Jim Harbaugh contract situation is yet unresolved. I just want to get this on the record from you.
Right. They
canceled their last 3 games, and the buzz after the Ohio State cancellation was that they were ducking Ohio State. They wanted nothing to do with it. Now they're ducking, in quotation marks, the Iowa game. That's off the books. Their season's done. It was a disaster by all accounts. Do you buy the conspiracy theory? Is Jim Harbaugh and Michigan ducking their opponents?
I mean, obviously we know COVID is a real thing. But at the same time, I mean, was it a little beneficial for them to kind of duck that Ohio State game? I mean, and then when you also consider that they get that little moral victory of not being last in the Big Ten East, So,
just,
I mean, they love those moral victories. We all know that they do. I got to rib them a little bit, but.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. It's fine in this audience anyway.
Right. So, I mean, on one hand, I do understand COVID is a real thing, and I'm not personally have any connections in that athletic department. I don't know their situation directly, but, does it kind of benefit them a little bit to duck them, though? Yeah, a little bit. And they get to say, we're not last.
Exactly.
So,
and I think that it's one of those things where it's gray. And everyone wants to say they're ducking these opponents and they want nothing to do with it. Or the other side is they want to play. Like Ward Manuel comes out just breathing fire at everybody. How dare Kirk Herbstreit say mean stuff?
It's the game.
Yeah, it's the game. It hasn't been the game since I was still like shitting my pants. So, I mean, it hasn't been the game since before I could drive. So that's ridiculous.
It's been a long time.
But Ward Manuel coming out like, we'll play anyone, any place, anywhere. It's like, no, okay, calm down.
Calm down with the machismo.
Yeah. It's like, do I think they were ducking it? No, I don't think they were forging COVID test results. I believe that it was obviously a legitimate issue.
Right.
They're not the only program that's canceled games this year. Michigan State has had numerous cancels.
Yeah, Maryland's.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, although I will say that program in East Lansing, which is always supposedly second fiddle in everything they do, didn't cause any cancellations this year. They were ready to play every week, right? I mean,
right.
I'm not
Shout out to our doctors and our staff for that, because that's a really impressive thing to keep everyone safe during this time.
Yes, and that's what Mel Tucker opened so many press conferences with, was just thanking the medical staff, as he should. Mm-hmm. I don't think that they were ducking anybody per se, but can we at least admit that they're happy they didn't have to play?
Right. I mean, Ohio State was probably going to drop 100 on them.
They were going for it.
Yeah, they were definitely going to try.
That's what Ryan Day said.
I know.
So
that's one guy I don't want to mess with. Ryan Day,
I don't want
to piss him off. No, I want zero parts of Ohio State ever.
And I always, speaking of Ohio State, and we'll end any discussion on Michigan with this point, but I think it is interesting that the Michigan fan base kind of justifies, we're hearing these rationalizations after the fact, Harbaugh stabilized the program. This program was only winning 9 or 10 games at its peak anyway, other than the 1997 season. So, he's done a good job. First of all, you weren't hiring him to do that. You were hiring him to catch. It was
national championships.
Yes.
They were like year 4, national championship. That was what was always talked about.
Yeah, and that's what you're paying for.
That's the standard at Michigan, right? That's a Michigan man.
Well, so I'm told.
We're told.
But I think the revisionist history regarding his expectations is just fascinating. Right. But this whole notion that they throw out there of, he was only here to win 9 or 10 games. Nobody can catch Ohio State. No one's saying you have to go toe for toe, in a 10-season stretch, go 5-5. But Michigan State beat Ohio State as a huge underdog twice, and they were the only team to beat Ohio State in those seasons.
Right, we've gotten smacked since, though. They've let us,
I know, but you got a couple wins on the resume. That's all I'm saying. I'm not, even if you go 2-8.
Yeah.
Michigan would kill for 2-8 in a 10-game stretch.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's been a long time since they've beaten Ohio State.
The last time they won was like a decade ago against an interim coach. Now, Fickell's competent, but that was a joke Ohio State team. But anyway, that's enough Michigan talk. Let's get to our man crush.
Oh, no.
Mel Tucker.
We need a graphic of some hard eyes,
Well, and I love Mel, and I don't know if I'm crazy to love Mel, but I love Mel.
I do too.
And I want you to tell me if I'm nuts to think that this was a great hire from day one, because I didn't think that initially. But I
didn't either.
You were more on board than I was.
I was very in the Luke Fickell train, to be honest.
Well, so was everybody. But let's pull this up. So this is you, February 8th.
Okay.
This is when they're totally SOL. East Lansing is burning, and I'm doing shows where I'm like pulling my hair out. And you had a tweet about Mel Tucker and that you were intrigued by him. So this is the quote for the audio listeners. February 8th, Tara Stafford, Fickell is still my number one, but I gotta say, I'm very intrigued by Mel Tucker. Mm-hmm. So you were on board with the concept, and maybe you were at least interested in learning about Mel Tucker's interests and if he likes long walks on the beach or not.
Do we know if he does?
I have not confirmed that either way. Cynical asshole sitting across from you, me, had a very different take on this the same day, February 8th.
Oh.
Why on earth is Michigan State giving Mel Tucker the time of day?
Now you have 2 paintings of him.
And he turned it around pretty quick.
Yeah.
And that's,
he got you on board quick.
And I question my own sanity, because it's what are we really looking at? A 2-5 season, 2 very, very rewarding wins as significant underdogs, which is part of it. I mean, if it had been like a win against Rutgers and like a bad Maryland team or something.
It's different.
Yeah, it is different. Right. It lands different. But I mean, we saw the contrast. They went 2-5, and you are, thrilled with Mel Tucker. I'm thrilled with Mel Tucker. Yeah. A lot of people are thrilled with Mel Tucker. Are we crazy? How do you grade year one? 2-5 would normally be a disaster.
Yeah.
How do you grade him? Where do you see year one? Now that it's done, it's in the books, no more games. How do you summarize the season?
Well, honestly, I can kind of consider it year 0, because with the amount of time he had with this roster and no spring ball, I mean, to expect anything more would be crazy, right? Like, going into the season, we knew it was going to be tough, even if D'Antonio was here. Like, we knew it was going to be a tough season. The roster wasn't looking super promising. We're losing a 3-year starter at quarterback. We don't know what's coming up. You don't know what these guys can do. And, I think with what he's been dealt, I think Mel Tucker's done the best job possible. And I think it started really with the fan engagement. The fan base, I didn't realize how much we needed that rejuvenation, that fresh energy. And, I think right now most fans are in the place that we're excited about the future for the first time in a while. And that's a good thing. And Mel's kind of brought that all together for us. So overall, I'm pretty happy with what he's done.
So if you're putting a grade on it, A-, B+, all things considered?
I'd put it at a solid B+.
A B+.
I think that's fair.
Well, I think that's fair too. You can't give.
I can't go overzealous yet.
Well, not a 2-5 season is disqualifying from the A to A- range just by default. So I think I would land in that B+ range as well. We have not to speak for you, I think we both have a shared affinity for his predecessor, Mark D'Antonio, right? Is that fair?
Yes, of course.
They couldn't be more different.
Really?
It just
polar opposites,
yeah,
completely.
They look different, act different,
Operate
sound
different.
operate differently. Mm-hmm. Other than the fact that they're both men that
and
coach,
coaches.
It's I
from
guess,
Ohio.
Yeah,
that's about it.
Yeah, they have the Ohio connection, but they have basically nothing in common, and they had huge success under Mark D'Antonio. Where if you could say, okay, take Mel Tucker for 13 years if he stays that long, and he's just going to replicate D'Antonio's 13 years. Mm-hmm. I don't know a Spartan that wouldn't take that.
I'd take it in a heartbeat.
You would take it in a heartbeat. So that's our position on D'Antonio, but yet we acknowledge we have a guy in place now who has basically nothing in common with this guy who had a run that we would kill to have again. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that's, sort of a conflicting ideas there, mm-hmm. or if it's cognitive dissonance or what. But why do you think this is going to work when the complete opposite worked once?
Right. D'Antonio's old school. He's an old school coach. The way he operated was very old school. He's very loyal to a fault. But it was also one of his strengths as well, was his loyalty. And we're already seeing with Tucker that it's Tucker's way or you're gone. He's not going to play around. If you're not bought into his system, transfer portal. See ya.
He kicks him all
out.
out.
He's going to turn over this roster quick. And it's going to be an adjustment for MSU fans. We're not used to that. We're not used to this kind of SEC-like kind of way of running a program. And, I do hope that, if we are going to be so lucky if Tucker can replicate D'Antonio's success, obviously. But obviously the level that Tucker can recruit, though, brings us to a different level, I think. D'Antonio was known for player development. We would get some guys that were no names, guys that had barely any offers, and he would turn them into stars. We don't know about that about Tucker yet. His resume is a little incomplete. We saw 1 year with Colorado. It's not really enough to get a full picture of what he's capable of. But as of right now, all the optimism is there. We're bringing in talent. It's going to be a different team, different program. But, so far, I think he's done everything right at the moment.
He's checking every box. And, I know you are a big fan of the social media presence and the mm-hmm. memes. And,
I love it.
We have the cigar photo on my bathroom wall. Obviously,
it's amazing.
I'm not repudiating the greatness of, the bits. But, I've tried to clarify with people. I don't know if you caught when I have a production company and work with some musicians and put mm-hmm. on shows and stuff. So I actually worked with a rapper who came up with a song sort of initiating Mel Tucker in. And I had a letter within a day of that being posted from Mel Tucker's representation. Wow. But it wasn't his agent or his attorney. He has a media, I don't know what the...
a team?
It's a media control team.
That's awesome.
It's a firm. And so I will say, as much as I love all the fun stuff, and I do, it's not a criticism, but people think he's all off the cuff. He's actually working with a team of professionals that are telling him, here's what goes viral. Here's what people like. Here's what the kids are into. So he's not, again, not a criticism, but it's not he's not as organic as he seems. And, it's more calculated, which I do not think is a bad thing.
I think that's a great thing.
I'm glad that he cares and that he's going this way.
He understands image, right? He understands the image that he's putting out. He knows what he was doing with that cigar photo. We all ate it up,
Yep.
And Michigan fans made fun of us for it. I got a lot of crap in my mentions with people being like, it's just a photo, he's smoking, big deal. And I'm like, do you see how cool he looks though? I mean, like, can we separate it from anything else? Like, he clearly understands image and brand. And, you know, we've seen it with the social media team at Michigan State. I mean, the graphics have been absolutely unreal. And the image of Michigan State, you know, with the uniforms to the graphics, you know, it's just, he's really boosting, you know, Michigan State's image, which we needed, you know, to be honest.
And everyone was talking about the assistant coaching pool being significantly raised as a condition of him coming here, which is absolutely true. What no one really reported that I saw, but I know hearing directly from someone that works in the program now, is their social media budget and their graphics team that, you know, they're sort of out front now. There's like 7 of them. They had a social media graphics team before, but they tripled their budget. And D'Antonio, it's like 2.8 times the budget that D'Antonio had. And D'Antonio was never denied. He just didn't really care. It was like, you know.
It was an afterthought.
Wasn't even on his agenda.
Yeah.
So it's not like, you know, D'Antonio was not given something he had asked for. To him, he just didn't see the value in it. Even now when he's on Twitter and throughout his entire Twitter career, it's just like, go green, victory for MSU, like thumbs up. It's like stuff my dad would say.
Yeah.
You know? So there's no like relating with the players there. And I love D'Antonio, but
that wasn't his thing. It's not his. No.
Tom Izzo's not even on there at all. I mean,
no, Izzo will never get on Twitter.
No,
never.
No. That would
never.
That'd
be the end of days.
Yeah, seriously, like the apocalypse
he hates
is
Twitter.
coming.
He hates Twitter.
And maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later. We're going to get into basketball for sure, but I just think what we're doing is smart because I don't think you can win with the D'Antonio way if you start year 1 or you call it year 0 in 2020. I think the game kind of passed him by.
Yeah.
And I hate to say that.
You have to make adjustments though, right? Like we all knew what D'Antonio had to do. We were like, we need something new. We need new coaches. We need offensive ideas. And it was just the same thing. And, you know, I understand his loyalty and I respect it, but it got to a fault, you know? It was like, we got to get some fresh blood in here. You know, we need fresh ideas. The offense had been stalling for years. The offensive line was a disaster. And, you know, it just kind of got to a point where it's like, we gotta get something new here. So Mel Tucker has definitely kind of brought that energy back for sure.
I knew they were in deep trouble as a program when they just threw all the assistants into a jar and shook up the jar.
Oh, the the musical chairs of coaches. Yeah.
It's like you have the third to last offense in the entire country. You're getting outpaced by like Akron. And they're just, okay, you know what, you can coach the linemen. And you know what, you were coaching the tight ends, you call the plays now. And it was just a ridiculous attempt. He was toast. Yeah. And that guy ran on pure hatred for everything, like that, not just Michigan, but
at the end, definitely. At the end, it was even grislier.
At his peak, though, D'Antonio thrived on not being bippity boppity boo,
disrespect.
Disrespect. And always looking for that chip on the shoulder. And I think it just wore his ass out. I mean, he's pushing, what is he, 65, pushing 70? You know, I mean, it's just. It wore him out, and he just doesn't have the steam to do that anymore, and he was just done. I mean, he
didn't want to recruit anymore.
No.
You know, that's when he said he knew he was done, is he couldn't promise these guys, like, I'm going to be around for you.
Right. And that's what Brian Masalam talked about, MSU trustee, when he was in the studio in the chair there. He basically said, like, look, D'Antonio was up front with them. They wish it had come sooner, but he was up front with them and saying, I can't go into these kids' houses anymore and tell them, like, I'm going to be your coach for 4 years. He never intended to leave them out to dry like that, hanging them out to dry like that, but he realized in that moment, I got nothing left and stepped down. So, I don't know. I still love him, but
I do too. We'll always love him for the Rose Bowl and all those great years and the memories. I mean, he's the coach of my lifetime.
Yeah. Coach, I think the best coach in the history of the program. In my opinion. Yeah. I mean, we weren't around for Duffy Daugherty in the 60s.
But the game has been, it's harder now, I feel like.
Much harder.
Yeah. And the landscape is harder. I mean, you look at the Michigan State job is already hard. You know, you've got to compete with Notre Dame, Michigan, Ohio State. You've got all those programs, those powerhouse programs, all within a very close radius to you. The Michigan State job is hard. I mean, Saban left, and when he said that, he's like, I don't think I can win big here. And D'Antonio proved that you could achieve big things here. And, now we're starving for that to happen again. And, hopefully famished, absolutely dying for that to happen again. Yeah.
And I like to hold my school and my teams to the same standard I hold other people. So, we talked a little bit about Harbaugh, and a big part of why I think he has been unmitigated disaster and a failure is based on the salary and expectations. Mm-hmm. If you pay Jim Harbaugh or Coach, Joe Schmo $2 million a year and you're at the bottom half of the middle of the pack at best in your conference, okay, maybe it's okay to win 8 or 9 games and you're thrilled with those results. Harbaugh making top 3 money, it's not okay. Mel Tucker's not quite at that level of salary, but you are paying him, what is he, like the 12th highest paid coach in America right now? What are your expectations to where, okay, I'm happy with where we're at? Like not even a 1-season peak, like give me a 5-year stretch, let's say starting from year 3 or year 4 on, assuming he's here that long. What do you need to see in a 5-year stretch? 1 Big Ten title? Would you be okay with none? Where do you land on him?
That's a really good question. Honestly, I just want us to get back to competing again with the big boys. We gotta, when we play Ohio State, I don't want to feel completely outmatched anymore. And I realize Ohio State's on a different plane than the rest of us at the moment. And the way that Ohio State's recruiting, they're not slowing down anytime soon. But, I think that it's a little unreasonable to be like, well, I want this many Big Ten titles. Like I want 3 Big Ten titles because that's crazy. One would be great, obviously. But I would be happy with just kind of getting back into competing for that, having a chance at kind of taking down Ohio State, being in that game and having it be close. I know that sounds a little bit pessimistic, maybe. You probably wanted me to come here.
What are we about? We're 20 minutes in and we finally disagreed, but that's okay.
That's all right.
You can finish, and I'll counter.
Basically, I just want to be back to competing for Big Ten titles because I think that's the standard for this program. It's been set by D'Antonio that, we got to be competing for Big Ten titles. And then hopefully after that, if you win the Big Ten, then you can move on to the playoff. That's kind of how my mindset goes.
Sorry, go on.
No, you finish. Go ahead.
I think Mel Tucker would even disagree with you. I think and did you hear what he said when they asked him in the offseason about those early recruits they were getting and who they were going after, and everyone made a big thing about the size? Did you see his quote about why he was going after big guys?
I did not see that.
He said everyone talks about, it's a speed game and this and that, and, take a chance on the little guy. And this is like a total paraphrase, but this is the spirit of the quote. He said, all I know is I watch the college football playoff every year, and it's a bunch of big dudes just mauling each other. And
we played Alabama. We saw that. Yeah,
we saw that, and he was actually on that sideline. He was on that Alabama staff, the team that just bombed us in 15. But his philosophy in recruiting is not to win the Big Ten because he knows I can go after those, the Boyer Whites and like the short, receiver with
works hard,
sure hands,
gym rat,
the gym rat, and basically like every stereotypical like white wide receiver running back, just but that's not what he's interested in. He's interested in big guys that are just horses, and that's the way he's recruiting. And he framed it where, look, I'm not saying I think Michigan State's going to be competing for national championships. I think that's an unreasonable expectation. But I think the whole shoot for the moon, you'll land among the stars even if you fall short thing is kind of what we're going for. And if they're in a 5-year stretch, not year 5, I mean like year 7, 5-year stretch starting from, year 3, and they haven't gone to Indy and like either won or like lost because the ref screwed them or something, I'm going to be very, because they're paying
them a lot. Yeah.
They're paying them a ton. So you're saying like, I want them to like be in there and give Ohio State their darndest.
That's fair.
I
see your point.
They're paying
more. A premium, right?
Yeah, and it's it's not like our money, but it's the principle of it where it's like, okay, if you're paying the guy, top 10,
we do have to have results at some point,
and really good results. And it doesn't mean win the Big Ten every year, but in a 5-year stretch, I need 1 year. Like give me one good year. Just give me one.
I mean, with D'Antonio, it was usually within a 3-year stretch, there'd be like 1 year where we're just bad. Second year, they get a little bit better and they might lose those close games. And then year 3, the team is just ready to go with those upperclassmen and just start winning big games. And, I see your point, though. I think that's fair. A Big Ten title in a 5-year stretch would make us all, absolutely thrilled.
Yes.
And I mean, Harbaugh would kill for that.
And people are instructed on Twitter not to even converse with you if their team has not played in Indianapolis, right?
That's right. And I mean, they don't read that. Why don't they read that? I still get added, even though I said don't at me if your team hasn't played in Indy. So.
And that's what I tell because some of my best friends, the best man at my wedding is a Michigan alum and like played hockey there, and like I tell them this rationalization with Harbaugh drives me nuts on principle because it's like, don't you want to go to Indy? I've been there 3 times. It's a lot of fun.
It's a ton of fun.
Have you actually been to any of the Indy games?
Yeah, so I've been to the 2 wins. I didn't go to the Wisconsin game, but I think that Wisconsin game would have ended me.
It basically did end me.
I think a piece of me died during that game that I'll never get back because when you saw that flag come up after the punter.
Yeah. If they don't touch the punter, we win that game, by the way.
Yeah, I know. It's like a knife to I've never watched that game since. Have you seen any clips from that game?
I refuse.
The second Big Ten shows it, I'm like, nope, mute.
I want
off.
nothing to do. And
yeah, I'll never watch it again.
I'm a huge Russell Wilson fan. So
that game was an incredible game, right? It was probably one of the best Big Ten championship games, and I will never watch it again.
It probably was the best. I mean, I actually thought it was more entertaining objectively than like the Iowa game, which was just like a grind. I mean, we liked it because we won, but if we had lost that game, that'd be like the worst game ever.
I mean, like that Keith Nickel, BJ Cunningham pass, like that's maybe one of the best plays in MSU history, and we can't watch it again. I was there with a group of friends and my wife, and my wife doesn't understand like the roughing the punter penalty. She's like she's a Spartan too, but very casual sports fan. Right. And so I see the contact. Who is it? Danico Sound or whoever it was. Mm-hmm. I see the contact with the punter, and before the flag's even out of the ref's ass, I'm like, you're like, we lost because we knew over. Yeah, it's over. There's like a minute left, and they're like, okay, we have no timeouts. The game's over. They're gonna sit on it. And my poor wife, who was it? Keyshawn Martin, or whoever it was, is returning it. It was Keyshawn. Like, and he was good, wasn't he? I love Keyshawn. But he's taking it back like to the Wisconsin 20, and my wife is just like, freaking out, and you already know it's over. I'm like, let's go. And she looked at me like I was nuts, and then I see the flag, and I'm just like, we all know what the flag was. Oh, immediately, the second, my buddy's like, why did we go after him though? Why did we go after the punter? I will never understand that. You had enough time, you had a good offense, and it made no sense. You had an NFL quarterback under center. Anyway, why are we talking about this? I don't know. We like pain. How dare we like pain? It up? Well, I don't know how into the Detroit sports scene you are. I know you strictly as the Michigan State gal, but. There's been a lot of pain. I dabble. Yeah, I dabble in Detroit sports. It's been a rough stretch for Detroit, though. Yeah, that's like they're a drug right now. It's like saying you dabble in heroin or something. I mean, it's like I try to dabble, but they suck me in and they just suck my life out of me. That's my relationship with the Detroit Lions. Oh my God! Can we not talk about the Lions? Oh, I mean, we need no. That'll be one of our shows next week, actually, or the week after. But yeah, we'll do a deep dive on the Lions because I don't know what the hell they're doing. They're crazy. But anyway, crazy. We'll get this back on the rails. So we'll transition off Mel Tucker. We love him. I think we love him very much. We love him very much, and we are understanding that you have to either be like in Indy or winning in Indy for this to not be, to me, a failure. Like if they go 7-5, 8-4 every year and never go to Indy, does nothing for me. Like, come on. Right. We have really good Twitter graphics. We should play in Indy at least once. With this budget. I mean, come on now. Come on. Shout out. I think he's watching tonight. Blaze Watson, who's on that graphics team, who does a lot of work. Great awesome. Work. He did yours. He did your graphic. Oh, I feel so honored. Yeah. You had the Michigan State graphics team doing graphics. Great work, guys, by the way. Yeah, they are awesome. And he messaged me because I was asking for your kind of final stuff for this week, and he's like, yeah, it's actually signing day on Tuesday, bro. So like, I might be a little busy. Just a little preoccupied. I said, you have my full blessing. Like, take your time. Prioritize. I mean, they did a great job on signing day too. They did. Those videos were awesome. I love what they're doing just across the board.
Those graphics they did for signing day are unreal.
They are so good.
I was looking at them. I was like, "Oh my gosh, they took hours on this."
Mm-hmm. And you're a graphics guy too, Ben, because you've made some nice ones in your day. So that's like game recognizing game at that point. For me, sure. I'm just like, it looks great. Like I'm easily impressed, but like they are legitimately doing a good job. Mm-hmm. So anyway, we'll transition. Of course, we're staying in the East Lansing realm. But do you follow my good friend who's been on the show, David Klein, the Wanderer Spartan Hoops? I love DK, yeah. DK, he's better Spartan Hoops DK. Is awesome content. I just subscribed. That was like the 3rd subscriber. As soon as he tweeted out there going to like a paywall. Oh, yeah. I was like, I'm taking a sledgehammer to that paywall. Like, I'm going right through that paywall. They are awesome. I mean, no,
Shout
like,
out to Soldier too. Great guy.
Soldier too. He actually doesn't like me, but I like him. There's a lot of people like that. He denies it. The guy trashes me on Twitter, and more of my takes. It's not like nothing personal. Yeah. And then he'd be like, "Hey man, I like you. You're good." It's like, it's okay that you don't like me, Soldier, but
MSU Twitter's an interesting place, isn't it?
Oh well, they're actually great. I have no problem with either of them. And DK is like my guy. I love that guy, and nothing against Soldier too. I've never met him, and he doesn't like my takes. But that's a long list of people that don't like my takes. So he's in good company, good and expansive company at that. But yeah. So anyway, DK, great guy. I think he is the best follow for Michigan State basketball there is.
I agree.
I mean,
absolutely.
He's better than the official Michigan State basketball account for following the stuff. He made basically viral level news. It was December 5th. He had a Twitter video. He had actually told me about this earlier in the day, that he was catching winds of all this drama with Amani Bates and Jaden Akins. So for the uninitiated, which are very few people watching this show, but Amani Bates is considered a probably
can't miss
generational,
the best recruit since like LeBron James.
So we're told, yes.
So we're told.
A phenomenal recruit that we expect to reclassify and be on somebody's team next year, even though he's technically,
ideally,
hopefully ours in the class of 2022. And then there's Jaden Akins, who I don't believe needs to reclassify. He is a hard 2021.
He's signed, right?
Yeah, he's like
signed,
coming. Yeah, he's coming. So they're on this prep team in Ipsy, and they have some kind of falling out. So I'm not going to try to rehash it, because let's just go right to the source. We can pull up the DK. Let's pull up the audio here, or the video here. This is something DK tweeted out regarding the Amani Bates, Jaden Akins drama that ended up with Jaden Akins getting kicked off the team.
First and foremost, my understanding of the situation is there was a conflict that arose at practice, that words were exchanged, and there was a question of both effort and sharing of the ball that had occurred. And as a result, the Bates camp took extreme exception to it. It came to a head during a game in which Akins had his head down. He missed Bates on an alley-oop, and Bates had extremely poor body language. I'll drop the video here below so you can see it. There was some questioning of his attitude, and just generally he was being cast in an unfavorable light. And as a result, the Bates camp decided to push Akins out. I think it's utterly preposterous and ridiculous. He's a 17-year-old kid. The adults in the room should have squashed this beef. I coached high school basketball for 6 years. Kids are going to fight. Kids are going to call each other out and hold each other accountable. That's part of being involved in a great team, a team that wants to win. And so the fact that this wasn't squashed internally and handled appropriately, I think says a lot about the situation surrounding Bates.
So that was a mouthful from the Wizard of Michigan State basketball. But, I mean, basically you have this situation where you have a generational talent, the best prospect in 17 years supposedly, that is his dad coaches this team, runs this prep team. It's a new prep team in Ipsy. Yep. And then you have Jaden Akins, who's a signed guy that wanted to be a Spartan for basically his entire life. And there's a conflict here. We'll let DK kind of give his take on it. And I'm curious if you agree or disagree with his conclusion here.
I personally think it's beginning to look a lot unlikely that he actually does show up. My understanding is Michigan State is aware of this situation, that the staff is supporting Akins. Everything that I've heard about Akins is that he's a hardworking, humble kid. I did an interview with him this summer, and he was well-spoken, well-mannered, and extremely nice. He's a kid that really is thrust into a poor situation now, that he's going to have to scramble to try to find a program. And I just think that long-term, I'm not going to look into a crystal ball and guess. But if there's a choice to be made in this situation between Akins and Bates, for me it's very simple. You choose Jaden Akins.
So they got along so poorly that they literally kicked this kid off the team. And you have two guys on your plate, and you're Tom Izzo. Tara Stafford is jumping into Tom Izzo's suit and tie right now. And you have a generational number one guy versus a four-star, not even like a lesser five-star, but a four-star, not that that's everything, but a best recruit in 15 years versus like the 68th best recruit in this season. But Bates seems to be maybe in the wrong here, according to DK and those around the situation. If you're Tom Izzo and you have to pick, Amani Bates goes to you and says, I can't play with this guy, it's him or me. What do you do if you're Tom Izzo?
I'm going with Jaden Akins. I think you got to take the multi-year possible starter over a guy who, we don't even know if he would actually come to Michigan State. I mean, he has plenty of options. He can go to the G League. I don't think if he, does do the college route, I don't think he'll be anywhere other than Michigan State. I think that seems kind of clear. But I think you got to go with Jaden Akins just because, from what DK said and from what I've heard as well, he seems like a good kid. And that seems like something that should have been handled by the adults, right? They should have said like, hey, cool it. That should have been squashed. It shouldn't have come to where you're leaving Jaden Akins out in the dark in the middle of the season, right? Like that just doesn't sit well with me. And I would kind of start to worry about how Amani Bates would handle being coached by Tom Izzo, right? Like he has been coached by his dad his entire life. And how is he going to handle Tom Izzo? Like, is he going to be able to handle that level of coaching? And Tom Izzo is a very demanding coach. And I'm not sure if that would mesh well. I don't know if you'd want to deal with the drama with the dad getting involved. And maybe he would be super involved in the coaching decisions and want to be kind of there. So, yeah, it would just make me concerned. I think that Jaden Akins is the safer bet to go with.
So even if, because you said who knows if Bates even comes, but you would go with Akins even if Amani shows up in Tom Izzo's office post-COVID, they're all vaccinated, and he's got the pen in his hand and he's got the letter of intent and says, I'll sign it, I'm going to be here if you kick Akins out post-scholarship. You're still going with Akins? I'm
still going with Akins. I mean, obviously I wanted to see Amani Bates here. I thought that when I heard that those two were playing together, that was going to be a positive for MSU to begin with. I thought, hey, those two are going to get a chance to play together. They're going to have a relationship. That might help Amani to come here. But I would still go with Akins. I think he's the sure thing.
I happen to agree with both of you, but I'm like cringing when I say it because this is the
I want Amani Bates.
Oh, of course.
More than anything. I was so excited when he committed. And it was a pretty shocking commitment, right? I don't think anyone had the scoop on that. It just kind of came out of nowhere.
Yes.
And none of us expected that to happen at that time. I mean, it had been talked about. I mean, the relationship with Michigan State had been there, but didn't expect that commitment at that time.
It was the only school recruiting him, only school of note recruiting him, which they've been open about because everyone thought, like, there's no way
he's going to play in school.
Right.
Yeah, and he's going right to the league.
Right, and we still don't know if that's going to be the case or not, but it's like, I worry about the Amani entourage where
exactly.
Like, we all know we're talking about a kid. I think he's still technically a minor.
16.
Yeah, so I'm not going to get too into the weeds here, whereas if this were like a 24-year-old, I would get into more detail. But I just said it, I said it to DK, and I tiptoe around it, and you can, not even respond if you don't want to. But there's some concerning things on his Instagram. Things
I've seen those. Yeah.
You've seen them.
I've seen the live, yeah.
You've seen him. I'm not going to quote him.
No.
He's a kid. We're
leaving
young. It there.
Yeah, he's a young kid.
But there's things where I see like Max Christie or Jaden Akins where they seem to have like a
maturity.
Yeah.
But it's understandable. I mean, he's a young kid. He's 16? And, but when you see those kind of things, it does kind of make you take a pause.
It's concerning.
Wonder. Yeah, it is concerning.
And you made the ultimate point right out of the gate with being coached by Tom Izzo, and we've followed Tom Izzo I have for quarter century, and this is not a guy that makes exceptions for guys that want to break the rules. Like, he will throw your ass off the team. That Michigan State team when Corey Lucius was still here could have really used Corey Lucius for an extra year. Got him out. He wasn't fitting the bill. Chris Allen. Got him out, and they ended up all playing with Hoiberg at Iowa State, which is like transfer you at that time. But he doesn't make exceptions, but he's also never been introduced with an exception of this talent. And sports are always about accommodating that level. But I don't know. You said what you would do. Mm-hmm. What do you think Tom Izzo would do? Do you think he agrees with us that if it's one or the other, he goes with the less heralded?
I do think Tom Izzo would go with Akins. Akins to me, like DK said, I think he was the one that was in the right here. The adults should have handled this. It shouldn't have gotten to this level, and it's kind of ridiculous to me to just kick this kid off for what they said he was being selfish or something.
He didn't pass him the rock.
Ball enough.
Amani scores like
60 points a game.
Yeah.
Okay, how much more do you want? Do you want 100? Like, what's the limit here? You know,
just look at the shot attempts. Like the guy is the highest volume. He's the highest volume.
I mean,
shooter
he's
by
like
far.
a baby Durant to me. I mean,
Yeah,
he's incredible to watch, but I mean, he's getting shots. You know, if anyone's getting shots, it's Imani.
and I'm not comparing the talent because I do think Bates is flat out more talented than Aikens, but Aikens has looked a lot better than anyone anticipated, and I think that was DK's takeaway as well. It's like he's a solid kid. He's wanted to be a Spartan since he was like 4 years old. But like that guy's actually really good. I mean,
He is.
He's dynamic.
He's very talented. He's quick. He's everything you would want in a point guard.
You don't throw that guy out.
No, you
know?
don't.
You just
No.
don't. So we all agree, but we all do it with like a tear coming down our eye because
we wanted it to work, right? Like
we're not Duke or Kentucky where it's
No.
like, okay, I mean, Bates might be better than the average number one recruit in any given year, but if Duke or Kentucky or North Carolina loses out on a guy, it's like, okay, we're going to be in competition for the second or third ranked recruit. Michigan State really very rarely is in competition for one of those top three guys. You see, like, I think Jaren Jackson was like the fifth. Miles Bridges was like the 12th, which, I mean, they're great recruits.
Right.
But those generational, like, this guy's going to have 20 points a game his freshman season and get you to the Final Four, just him, basically, or Elite Eight or whatever, the Zion Williamson type. We just don't get that guy.
No.
We just haven't. No. And this was finally the guy, in my opinion, and it still could happen. It's you know,
I mean, he's in the state of Michigan, so it's like normally a lot of these top players, they're not in our general radius, right? So that's like the guy. You know, he's from Michigan,
yes,
and he's been to Michigan State's campus probably a million times.
Yes,
and he's got that relationship with Tom Izzo. Tom Izzo's been the coach his whole life, plus more. And so it's like that seemed like the guy to get. If he's going to play college, it'd be at Michigan State. But it's seeming a little bit less likely, I think, now.
it's heartbreaking.
It is.
I'm tired of this. Has been and look, I'll be frank. I'm going to come off like a spoiled wiener, but I'm tired of coming close to no cigar. I've been all these Final Four losses. I'm getting, you know, the near misses of the Elite Eight with the UConn team that we have a 9-point lead with 9 minutes left and we blow it.
I mean, that UNC team we lost to, though, was like one of the best of all time.
Well,
that team was just a buzzsaw.
That's forgivable, but losing to that Butler team,
he was fouled.
He was.
Draymond was fouled.
But just Lucas being down, which is no one's fault, but it's like
the unfortunate luck. It just always seems to just kind of nip
Big
us.
Ten Player of the Year. The guy was the Big Ten Player of the Year that season. He was the best player on the team, and I mean it was technically a 2-point loss because the intentional foul at the end or whatever, the intentional miss. I mean by Lucius when they needed the rebound. But it's basically a 1-point loss, and your best player was on crutches on the sideline, and it's like. That Duke team that ended up beating Butler, it's like a B- Duke team. It was one of the worst. I mean, they're national champs, but as national champions go, it's like one of the worst national champions ever. So it's just, I'm tired of it. And it's not that I'm mad at Izzo. Like, Tom Izzo's a God build the statue right now. I love him.
Absolutely.
But it's just, it's been so many kicks in the gut. And it just feels like they need that transcendent guy to just finally get them over. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious for your perspective on Izzo. Izzo's been very frank that he needs that second national title. And the way he's phrased it, he says, you know, the list of guys that have won one is pretty long. Once you go to that 2, it like shrinks way down. And then once it's 3, it's like, 8 guys or something?
Yeah,
I mean, it gets really small.
It gets real small. Yeah, elite
but
company.
He thinks he needs it to cement his legacy. I know that you don't think he needs it to be considered great, but do you think that it is a jump that he needs to make to be considered one of the greats to get that second one? Because he thinks that.
I mean, I think Tom Izzo, outside of us, is well respected, and you know, we all know what he's done. I mean, the Final Fours, and we haven't quite gotten over that hump. It's going to be our 20th year without a title. And, you know, you look at last year's team, I think that team also could have had a really big shot at the title as well, which is unfortunate due to COVID. It was canceled. The way Cassius was playing at that time, I think we had a real shot at it, which is unfortunate. But, you know, I personally don't think he needs a second title, but I want it so desperately for him just because of how much he wants it. You know, he really talks about it, and he's not shying away from wanting that second title. It's something he talks about all the time, that he wants that second title. And although I don't think he needs it to be great, I want it desperately for him.
Yes, and I happen to 90% agree with you. I think he does. He needs it to be considered one of the all-time greats. He is now respected nationally and considered like regionally great. But for him to be in that upper level where he is respected with maybe not at Coach K's level, he's got like 9 titles, but just in that kind of conversation with Patino and maybe Roy Williams, you got to have 2. And it's, you mentioned 20 years. That goes for the whole conference. It's bizarre to me that the Big Ten, that we have the last one, and I was in middle school when it happened. It's like,
I know.
And
It's been a long time.
I mean, it had always been in the game. Purdue should have been in the Final Four 2 years ago. But, yeah, I don't know. You mentioned last year's team. I'll go to my grave, and maybe it's awfully convenient, thinking that team was going to win the whole thing.
I feel the same way. I think that same thing.
You checked every box.
Yeah.
You had the senior leader point guard. You had a deep roster. They could go.
That just went to a Final Four.
Yeah.
They had been there.
Yeah. 9 or 10 deep. There was no juggernaut in the field. There was no
It was anyone's
dragon.
game. Yeah. It was anyone's. Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, weird stuff happens, but they had.
We certainly know weird stuff happens.
Yes.
High Middle Tennessee State.
Yeah. Well, oh, God. The tournament's weird, but I will go to my grave thinking that they had the best chance, if not that they were going to ultimately win.
They were heating up at the right time, which is what you want. They were starting to really gel and come together.
Yes.
And it really had that feel. Like when you watched that home game, the final home game against Ohio State, you just kind of had that like feeling like this team is special. And we've always thought it's special, but to actually see it come together all at once, that game, I just like, you could feel it in the building, that this team could do something big. And unfortunately, it shut down right after. So,
and it was the game. Was it one game before that or 2 games before that? I think it was on the road at Penn State.
Yeah, that game, yeah,
that was a great game. But did you see or do you remember the exchange where Tom Izzo's on the sideline, breaking his fingers on his own hand, trying to call a timeout, and Winston just kind of like corner of his eye glances and just totally blows him off.
And they have a little bit of a scuffle.
Yeah, a little bit of a scuffle was ensuing, but it was a key possession too. It was like 3 or 4 minutes left in the game or whatever it was, a close game back and forth. And it was a big critical possession in the sequence of that game. And Winston basically just tells Izzo to F you.
Yeah,
and then he wasn't the one that scored, but he set up someone right under the basket for a layup. It was a great play by
He's like,
yeah. And Izzo screaming at him on the sideline, and Winston got in his face. And I came on this show, the previous version of this show, and said, I have been waiting to see Cassius Winston have that snarl for 4 years.
Yeah.
And I didn't know he had it in him.
No. He's always been such a nice, polite, respectful guy. And, I do consider him a leader, but he wasn't the kind of leader that Draymond was. Draymond was very much of an old school, get in your face, yell at you, kind of ream you out type of guy. Whereas Cassius is more of a lead by example, a bit more of a quiet type. But yeah, you're right. Like when you saw that out of him, you're like, whoa, Cassius, where has this been? Like,
yes.
Where has this been this whole time? And it's just so unfortunate with the way that whole season went. Losing his brother and how tough that was. And, the MSU community, I felt like really rallied around Cassius, and it was kind of a really cool thing to see the love and support that we all kind of gave to him. And, he loves Michigan State, and it's just a shame that we never got to see that title run or that run in March, but, it'll always go down as one of the biggest what ifs, I think.
We had McQuaid in studio talking about the Texas Tech loss, and he basically said
they're gassed.
He said they were tired, but Winston was. I can't remember if he said this on the air because we were talking about it after too. He was a little more like open. I don't want to like throw him under the bus, but Winston was banged up in that game.
His knee.
Yeah, his knee.
His
he
knee.
specifically talked about the knee.
It was because he was playing 40 minutes a game.
Yes,
constantly.
And that is why, and everyone calls me Captain Asshole, and maybe it's fair, but I was so critical of Michigan State's coaching staff for, particularly, I'm sorry, and he's a great guy, but Dane Fife, for whiffing on the Foster Lawyer recruitment. Because to me, if you have a competent backup point guard that season, Michigan State's national champions that year. I will believe that till I die. And that you could have freshman or sophomore year Travis Trice, or freshman or sophomore year Corey Lucius. I'm not saying stud
have a
point
stud,
guard.
right? Just a backup that can play 10 minutes
And not
without
fall down.
Yeah, not
Just- They couldn't even play him. He was unplayable, and it's like, it's not nothing personal. Warrior seems like maybe the nicest guy on the whole team, but it's like that cost them a national title. And I didn't say that as harshly to McQuaid, but I did say to him off air, I think you guys were really hurt by the lack of depth at point guard, which, without naming names. And he said,
not naming names.
He goes, yeah. Well, and he knew, but he agreed. He said, yeah, there's no question. It's like we had one guy that just had to carry the whole load. And it's not just that he didn't have a backup, but what they were asking him to do, the usage, how much he was, 40 minutes is one thing, 40 minutes of that style.
Extended usage, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, Cassius isn't exactly built for that either. I mean, he's not an athletic freak of nature. He's like, you see Cassius and you're like, that guy? Is that good? Well, he doesn't look like, but he has old man game, but
the ultimate old man game. He has the best old man game.
Yeah, he does.
This is what I'm talking about, though, with like the near misses. Like the 2009 Michigan State team, which happens to be my favorite iteration of Michigan State basketball ever, had the toughest path objectively in the history of the tournament. They had to play the Pac-10 champion USC Trojans, a good, solid team.
Which was a really tough game.
Yes. Travis Walton bailed us out. Of all people, Travis
Walton to go off on offense, the guy who couldn't shoot for like 3 years.
The game of his life. Then they have to play the defending national champion, 3 seed, still really good team, Kansas. Mm-hmm. They knocked them off. They have to play the number 1 overall seed in the whole tournament, Louisville, who just destroyed. Was it Arizona or Arizona State? Just destroyed. I think it was Arizona State the previous game. They looked like they were going to win the whole thing. They dominated Louisville. Then they have to play another 1 seed in UConn.
UConn has like freak athlete too, like that huge guy Hashim Tabit.
Who went second overall like 2 months later in the draft. He was a bust, but still a freak college
huge
player.
Dude. Yeah.
And then they have to play another 1 seed and maybe one of the best teams in the last 10 to 20 years in UNC. So it's like defending Pac-10 champion, or a reigning Pac-10 champion, defending national champion, number 1 overall seed, 1 seed. They had to play 3 straight 1 seeds.
Yeah.
And they finally succumb, but the vast majority of seasons, if you look throughout history, that team, that 09 group wins the whole thing.
Oh, absolutely.
They were better than the Villanova
It was just
team.
They ran into
the
buzzsaw. Yeah, just the unfortunate year of running into a North Carolina team that was just so stacked.
Yes.
I mean, it was just, you knew like within like a couple minutes of that game that it was going to be over. It was like bad. We didn't have a chance. Yeah.
If you go back because that is a game I actually watched one time after the fact.
I haven't watched it since. No.
I don't recommend it. But
no, it wasn't a fun one.
But Sutan was actually good. That's what people forget. Like Sutan was like 14-10 in that game. Like Sutan actually
talk about
well.
A career though with Sutan. I mean, I remember that. Do you remember that Gonzaga game?
That was his freshman year.
And he missed that layup.
Yeah, he blew
and I was so upset with him for so long. And then his senior year, he just blossomed into this like stretch, guy who could shoot, the lights out. And, that he's one of those guys I think we forget about how good he was, genuinely.
I have a Sutan game-worn jersey in my collection here and that I got from him personally.
Wow.
And it was right after his senior year, right after that Final Four run. And I had asked him because his run in that tournament, he was the regional player MVP when they knocked off Louisville and Kansas in the game prior. But I asked him, I said, like, look, man, I defended you for years. My friends used to make fun of me for liking him. And we're going to get into, like, our pet Spartans later. But, like, I defended that guy. I always thought he was underrated, always had his back. Sometimes I'm wrong about these guys, but I nailed him. I always knew there was more there. But I asked him, I said, like, where did that come from? And according to Sutan, Izzo told him on the eve of the first game of that tournament, whoever it was, Robert Morris or whoever they played, that I just want you to play loose. That, you've been tight for the last 2 months. And he used expletives, but he told Sutan before that tournament, just let fucking go.
Just let it go.
This
let
is your
fly.
last fucking. He said Izzo was like yelling at him, like, this is your last fucking run. Like, don't hold anything back. Basically saying, look, I know you've had more in you this whole time. Like, don't go down like a punk. Like, show this is it, because if we lose, you're done. And he said that got him going, where it was like, okay, we're on now. Like,
hit the switch.
Yeah, and that's Izzo. It's smart. That was
he
great
knows.
coaching.
I mean, he knows his players. He knows. And sometimes Izzo gets some flack. I mean, you look at, with Aaron Henry, that whole chaos. And it's like
Ridiculous.
I thought that was way overblown. But when people see a coach yelling at a player like that, and they don't know Tom Izzo or they don't know our program intimately, they're going to go, what is it? This guy's out of control. He's unhinged. But us knowing we're close to the situation, we know that, Izzo is like a father figure. He's such a great guy and he loves his players and they love him. I mean, they all come back all the time. We constantly have former players around the program and, we know it's not as big of a deal. And Aaron Henry played great after that, too. So it was like kind of ridiculous.
And he was one of the ones that came out. I mean, you mentioned the players defend him. He was the one that talked to the media and was like, oh, I love when he yells at me. Like, I need the coaching. Well, he's right. When
you come to Michigan State, you're going to be coached hard, right? Yeah. You know that's coming with it. And you should expect it. And if you don't get it, then I think he doesn't see anything in you. There's nothing there to try to pull out.
Where do you stand on this year's team? Because they look great, ranked number 4, undefeated, and I still feel like I have no feel for them at all.
I'm feeling the same way. I don't know. Like, they've looked pretty good. I feel like we haven't. I mean, that Duke win was great, but then Duke lost again. So, you kind of like, we're feeling really good after the Duke game, but so far, I mean, they've had a bit of struggles with turnovers, which is usual for an early MSU team. They kind of just feel like a normal early season MSU team, but I mean, they've been a bit polished, but I still don't have a great feel. I think once we get into Big Ten play, I mean, this Big Ten is so strong, and we're going to know very quickly, who's going to be good in this conference and who's not. So
I think it's interesting. I talked to your good friend, Kyle Arns.
Love Kyle. Kyle Arns fan club, stand up.
I know you love Kyle.
I love Kyle.
Yeah, he's a great guy. And I had lunch with him about a month ago now, and we were just talking. I mean, obviously he's gone. He's not there now. But I did ask him about the element of and this was before Michigan State had tipped off. It was right on the eve of the season. And I was asking him about the dynamic with Cassius gone, because it's like we talked about the usage earlier. It's not just you lost your best player. Like, Draymond was the best player and he left, but he didn't have the ball like 96% of the time.
I mean, our whole offense was Cassius, pick and roll with him and Xavier Tillman, both gone. So then you're going, what is this now?
But Arns's point was, and I think it's proved prescient, was like, this is going to open up so many opportunities for guys that are like, we're kind of like sitting around, like, just because even guys that are on the floor. They have to be
more active. Yeah, they have to. They can't just wait for Cassius to bail you out anymore.
Right. And it's almost like, look, if Winston had appealed for a 5th year for whatever reason and somehow had gotten it, like, come on back. I'm not saying...
I would bring him back tomorrow. Like, come here right now.
Just to clarify that up front. But with that said, it's not all bad that he's gone, just in that you can't rely on him anymore. Mm-hmm. Papa's gone. He was the daddy of that team.
He was.
And other guys have to step up, and it's like there was a lot of, in my opinion, in wins. It was successful, but there was a lot of standing around. You watch those Michigan games that, the junior year where he went 3-0. I'll never complain about a 3-0.
Never.
Whatever strategy you did, great. But watching those games, there was a lot of standing around waiting for Cassius to do something, and he normally did. You're seeing there's more in guys that we didn't even know they had, in my opinion. That's what I'm seeing.
I mean, I think one of those guys is Aaron Henry. I mean, he's kind of become a bit more of a facilitator. He's more of like a point forward. He's making so many plays for other people. I mean, his assist numbers have gone up. And I feel like we're seeing a different side of Aaron Henry that I've wanted to see for a while, which is just he's been more aggressive. His shots haven't quite been there yet. I think that'll come around for him. But it's been really exciting to see more guys with the ball. And I mean, this team we've had like, there's no like main guy, I mean, Rocket Watts is always going to be Rocket Watts, but I feel like there's not one guy. There's no Cassius, there's not that central player that people have to focus on. It's kind of like you got to guard all these guys.
It's a team of like B+ guys, which is great.
There's no star. There's no main. I mean, Rocket Watts would be the guy if you had to pick one, but
He's not at that level.
Not
He's
at that.
yet.
Not yet. No.
Do you disagree with Derek Nix that Loyer is going to be the second leading scorer on the team this year? Did you see that?
I did not see that.
Derek Nix after that first game.
R.I.P. to the competition.
Yeah, well, and I love Derek Nix for that. Not stomping on a good Spartan dog.
Yeah.
But I quote tweeted him at the time. It was right after the Eastern game, the first game of the year. And I warned everyone in advance. I mean, that's in my feed. I was like,
I know you came after me too. You were
did I?
I think you did. You were like, let's see how it is after the first game.
Well, and I'm vindicated, by the way. You guy had 7 points.
It did age well.
And this is why you're the yin to my yang, or I'm the yin to your yang, whatever it is. Whatever the good one is you, and the bad one is me. I'm like the dark circle. So, I mean, you are more glass half full. I'm more glass half empty. At the end of the day, we both want to drink the milk of the national title. I mean, that's
exactly. We all want the same thing.
We want the same thing.
Yeah, we do.
Different perspectives, but I do not buy. And I talked about it on this show. There was a conga line of stories all off season about Loyer's a different guy. Just wait and see. And then he has that first game against Eastern where he goes off for 20. And it was viewed as an affirmation of the off-season stories that we were seeing. Mm-hmm. And I'm still not seeing it. I mean, as soon as the competition got better, he's a little better. He's not. I was going to
say, I mean, we got to give him some credit. I thought that when he came in the Duke game and he's come in other games, he does seem a bit more confident, right? Like in previous years, I felt like when Loyer would come in, I'm like clenched. I'm like, oh no. What's going to happen? You know, he kind of had this deer in headlights. He looked uncomfortable with the ball. I feel like he looks a bit more confident. And I mean, he's drawing charges. So, I mean, he's not completely not doing anything out there. I would like to see him shoot a bit more because, I mean, that's what he's known for, right? And we haven't exactly seen it all in a consistent pattern yet. But, you know, I think we got to give him some credit. I mean, there is improvement. And you know, it is hard to be the guy behind the guy, right? It's hard to be behind Cassius Winston, like one of the best point guards we've had in the program. And that's a hard guy to follow up. And, you know, Loyer hasn't exactly lived up to the expectations. I'm trying to be nice here, but, you know,
you're the white circle.
But I do think he has improved, but he's certainly not where we need him to be right now.
No, and that's my concern is where I think they're running into it again, where if they had a better backup point guard, or even like, I mean, they don't really have a point guard.
They don't
even
Rocket
really have
Watts
one.
Isn't really.
No,
he's not a natural point guard.
And this is a team it's very early, but in my opinion, if you had a Travis Trice, in my opinion, a B- point guard, good,
solid
B-, they could win the whole effing thing. But absent of that, someone stepping up, I'm having that anxiety I had 2 years ago where it's like, I just had a little better point guard play.
I mean, if Rocket Watts gets hurt, we're in some trouble.
We're toast.
Yeah, we're in some trouble. We're an injury away from some trouble.
Hogard looks like a guy that'll be good in like
a couple years.
Yeah, like he's going to be a late bloomer. Right? Yeah. I mean, you know, even
I like the cut of his jib though. He's got some confidence. You know, when he goes out there with the third unit. He shoots the rock. You know, he doesn't look too bad, but he's definitely a bigger guy too. He's
stoutly built.
Yeah. He's definitely a different kind of point guard, but you know, I don't think he'll be ready for a couple years.
Where's the ceiling for this team? I mean, we all know it's early, but can we dream big, national title, big?
I think Final Four. You know, I think Final Four should always be the expectation for this program. That's where, you know, we know. And that's kind of what I was talking to a friend about is that, you know, MSU basketball, we always shoot for national titles, right? And that can sometimes make seasons a little disappointing at the end of the year because we're like, oh, we didn't get a national title. But, you know, we've won 3 straight Big Ten titles. We've had so much success, so many Final Fours that other programs would kill to have one of those.
Yeah.
And so we're a little spoiled, but at the same time, you know, we should expect good things from our program. We should expect Final Fours based on the players that we have.
I think we're going to see Joey Hauser pop.
Man. Yeah, I'm excited about him.
I love him. And this may be denial on my part because he hasn't looked as good. I was telling everyone he's going to be 20-10, like rolling out of bed. And So like maybe I'm going down with the ship. But like he's not shooting well, and he's a great shooter. And
he's a great shooter,
and he's still productive. I mean, what is he like? 13 and 10 right now?
Yeah, he gets like every rebound somehow.
Yeah,
he's
and
like
he's
always in double
well.
figures. Yeah, and he's still not quite all there. And I think some of that though is a little bit of rust, right? And he's in a new program, and he had to sit out the year, and so I think there's still a little bit of rust in getting used to the system. But I hope by the middle of Big Ten player before then he kind of shakes out of it and breaks out, because we definitely could use that.
He's the X factor to me. Everyone says it's Rocket Watts. Like, to me, I'm counting on Rocket Watts to get better and be good.
Mm-hmm.
Hauser is the one where
he gives us something different. Yeah,
we've never had
a guy like that.
We have never had a guy like that, and it's funny because I watched him a little bit his freshman year at Marquette, and he's in my opinion, was a great passer. And Izzo has said he was a great passer in practice and all their scrimmages.
Yeah, he was really talking him up too. And Izzo's not one to just give out praise like that.
No.
He's like, he could be one of my best passing big men ever.
And
I
we
was
haven't
like,
seen
what?
that either.
Yeah.
So it's like you look at the guy, he's being productive. He's, whatever he is, 13 and 10. He's producing, and just eyeball test, he's grossly underachieving. So it's like, if this guy gets a little bit better, which you would anticipate as you mentioned, the rust is shaking off a little bit, I have the utmost respect for that guy's game. I am a huge
I love it.
Hauser fan.
Yeah, it's really fun to watch him play. And I do think like he will get more comfortable, I think, and kind of break out of it. But another guy is like Josh Langford. I didn't know what to expect with him this year. And, he's starting, he's playing minutes. I think there's still a little bit of rust with him too. But I was surprised to get anything out of him, to be honest. Like, I wasn't sure what to expect.
He's all gravy. I mean, that's kind of, and I still feel that way now. It's like, I just have that dread for him of, every
time he like falls weird, I'm
or
like,
lands like from a jump shot even.
Yeah, it's like I have like a little tinge. I'm like, ooh, please be okay.
Right. And he has a little bit of that Grant Hill thing of like with the foot. I think it was like,
it's the way he like falls, and it just kind of like makes me nervous.
And Grant Hill, who had access to the best doctors in the world, had like 9 ankle surgeries. It's such like a shitty situation for him. But anyway, I'm hopeful. I don't think it's a national title team, but at the same time, I'm not seeing.
But things could break, right?
Right.
That's you got to be in that though. You got to get to that Final Four to hopefully have things break your way for once. Can we have?
I would like an easy path. Like, I mean, God bless that Michigan team that was playing.
Oh
like
my gosh, Loyola, yeah.
Florida State.
I would kill for that. Yeah.
It's like the poor 09 Spartans are like, we had to play this just parade of 1 seeds and defending national champions, and it's like you played freaking Loyola. Like, it's just Michigan State needs a break. You go back the 09 juggernaut, the 2010 Kalen Lucas goes down. The UConn loss was at 13 or 14. It's just we've been so close, and I just want him to finally break through, which is why I really want to tell Amani Bates, look, Amani, I appreciate the ultimatum. I appreciate that you're the dog down there and you're the man. Can you just get along with Jaden?
Can we make up? Can we all just get along?
Yeah.
Can we all just be friends?
Right. I'm not saying tolerate a lot of nonsense, but don't be no nonsense either, Coach Izzo. Like, can you tolerate a little bit? Like, just be a little open-minded, because this is a generational talent that might finally get you in the second ring.
I've wanted Amani Bates to come here, and it's. I mean, we all do. You'd be crazy to say I don't want that guy here. Of course, we want to see him play here, and especially, I mean, we'd be the favorites, right? If he came here and played 1 year or whatever it would be.
Oh, if he's here, it's the favorites in Vegas.
Favorites, yeah. And, it'd be kind of fun to have that for once. But, I'm just kind of keeping my expectations low so I don't get hurt. Either way, I'm going to be hurt. I know I'm going to be hurt. But if I keep my expectations low and tell myself he's not coming here, it might hurt less. Yeah. Probably not, though.
It'll take the sting off. The one thing I'll say is we have a bunch of like scabs all over our body from like,
oh my gosh, all the recruiting woes. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Josh Jackson. I mean, you
being
mentioned
so close.
Michigan guys like Josh Jackson was a local kid that left and now is back home with the Pistons. But it's like we have. Look, it's a good problem to have.
Close.
But we've been so close.
Close.
This team has been one, and the thing is, it's not just the kick in the nuts at the time when they go to Duke or UNC or wherever they go, but when you look back in hindsight, and it's like the team that they did have was...
If they would just have one more player, one more guy.
Piece. Yeah.
And just missing that one NBA player.
And Amani's the guy, so I hope it works out. So you did great on the Michigan State stuff. I mean, we do a fun thing called the speed round And we're going to rip through. I kept it Michigan State because you're the Michigan State expert. You're married to Michigan State almost literally. But just great job by you on everything. So,
Thanks.
I mean, yeah, I feel a little
Appreciate
smarter having spoken with you.
Oh, well,
So,
thank you.
We do the speed round. It's similar to word association, but you can say more than a word. You can say, 1 to 5 sentences. Say, talk as much as you want, but we try to keep it tight.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you a question, say something that'll be on the board too if you want to look at our sexy monitor up there.
Beautiful graphic.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, shout out to Eric Williamson on his couch and his boxes watching this. So we'll start off with this. This is what I ask Michigan State fans all over the place. The most wonderful moment that I can think of in the football program's history in my lifetime. Where were you during trouble with the snap?
So that's an interesting story. I was at Michigan State at the time. I was going there, and I was watching it in my room, and I was watching it with a girl who didn't know football, and she was telling me that the game wasn't over, and I told her it was, and then, we all know what happened after that.
It was wonderful. I'll interject really quick with mine. So I was at the game, and obviously it's at the big house, and we're in these tickets that are Michigan season ticket holders tickets. So it's all Michigan. There's no friendlies around, and it's my brother and his wife and my buddy. So they're lining up for the punt, which there was a timeout. Harbaugh took it down to 1 second on the play clock, called his timeout. So there's this 60-second break. There's this guy who was probably mid-20s, a few years younger than me at the time, Michigan fan who had been yelling the entire game. If we even clapped for Michigan State, we weren't obnoxious.
Just going at you.
He was, oh, fuck you guys. So he's literally, they're kind of shuffling back onto the field, the lineup for the punt out of the timeout. They're taking their last swig of Gatorade. And this guy is literally, it's my brother standing here, and I'm right next to him. And he's got his head between us. And he's saying, this is a quote, so forgive me, but fuck you, Spartan faggots. Fuck you, you cocksucking faggots. How's it feel? You come up into our house. You fucking lost. Gonna be a long walk home, motherfucker. Right in my ear, calling us faggots, every gay slur. And this is literally as they're breaking, it's still going on. They're breaking the huddle, the lineup for the punt, and he's just going off. And then the snap is obviously fucked up. And it just,
Guy goes dead silent.
He was silent. And so it's, my brother and I turned around after the time. I blacked out. I don't even remember Watt's scoring. I was like, what the hell's going on? But we turned around and we're like, what was that? What was that? And he tried to punch me. He came after me.
Wow.
And they held him back. So I was literally getting berated and called a myriad of gay slurs and, homo and faggot. It's just
It's got to make that a little sweeter, though. You're like,
it was great. But it's that was the ultimate comeuppance. It was just the greatest moment for a number of reasons. But anyway, here's me hijacking your turn.
No, you're good.
We'll move on. We mentioned this earlier. I talked about Sutan. He was the guy that I loved, even though no one else loved him. Who is your guilty pleasure Spartan? Who's the one that you like, that you're kind of a sucker for, and you like him more than the average Spartan fan, or maybe the average Spartan fan should? Do you have one?
I think that's obvious. Kyle Arns.
It is Kyle Arns.
Of course.
That's a good one, but I will say, and there's no wrong answer, but Arns was actually a key contributor. And so was Sutan.
Okay.
So you're not wrong. It's because Sutan was mine, but Sutan was hated. We put Steven Izzo on the graphic because I just,
You gotta love some Steven Izzo.
Well, I have nothing against Steven Izzo, and it's like what my brother said, hey, if it's a 4-year contract extension for Tom Izzo in effect, bring it on. But so you had an irrational love for Kyle Arns. What was it? I mean, was it
I liked his grittiness. I think he was just kind of that quintessential program guy, a guy who just kind of embodies being a Spartan. I mean, he played through 1.5 million injuries. I think he broke everything, sprained everything, tore everything in his body, and he still found it in his body to, go out there, rebound, do whatever he had to do. He's floor slapping, even though he has a hurt back. I just love the effort he brought every time he was on the court.
We shared our love for Kyle Arns. I love Kyle.
Kyle's great.
He's a great guy, but I remember that game in Ann Arbor his junior year, jogging up and down the hall in Chrysler just trying to stay loose because if he sat on when he was out, he was playing in the game, but when they would pull him out, he couldn't sit on the bench because his back would tighten up. So he was doing like calisthenics, like up and down the tunnel, like to the locker room. You could see him from the seats. Like we were looking right at him, and he's just trying to stay loose. And that guy just he had so much heart. So yeah, there's nothing
I had to
wrong.
give a shout out to him anyways.
It's a good answer. It's a good answer. And just honestly, like one of the nicest guys I've met associated with that program too. So good answer. Moving on, your worst night as a Spartan fan.
Well, we already talked about it. It's going to be the Wisconsin.
That was the worst one.
That's by far the worst.
Yeah.
I've never felt lower as a fan. It just ripped a piece of my heart out for sure. It was awful. Seeing that flag come up, I thought we were so close at that point to get to Rose Bowl. I thought that was the team to get us there. And obviously knowing we would eventually get to the Rose Bowl, it helps take that sting off a little bit. But when you're in that moment, you thought, that's it. We're never going to the Rose Bowl.
It's such a good distinction, and I've never even really thought of that, but that's such a good point. Like, looking back now, it's like, oh, yeah, we made good on that literally 2 years later. It wasn't even that long of a wait. In that moment, you nailed it. It really did feel like
that was dashed.
It's never going to happen. I mean, they had that whole story, I don't know if you remember, where Kirk Cousins was, like, training there in the offseason, and he went up to the Rose Bowl, like, usher security guy was like, hey, I'll see you in 9
It was like going to be a Hallmark movie, you know? It had everything ready.
Yeah, like Cousins, I mean, I don't think he missed a Bible study in that whole time. He did everything right. He followed the movie.
He deserved
perfect.
to be in a Rose Bowl.
Yeah, I felt bad for him, and it's not
Me
like
too.
he's not the one that hit the punter. They would have won that game, but there were a myriad issues with that game where one play goes the other way and they win. Yeah, anyway, I talk too much. I got to let you talk more.
Nah, you're good.
So we hit on Michigan a little bit. Which Wolverine do you respect the most?
Ooh, that's a really good question. It's obviously not Mike Hart. I'll give you that.
He's the one that you respect the least.
That's a really good question. I would say I really like Denard Robinson, I think.
Oh.
I liked his personality. I know that sounds
is
a little crazy. I thought he seemed like a really nice, likable guy. Another one, Xavier Simpson, too. I really respect the way that he played. Obviously not the accident he had.
Yeah.
But not to bring that up, but
you don't respect his driving acumen.
yeah. But I like his competitive energy. I think he would have been an Izzo guy, somebody that plays hard defense and everything. So there you go.
Yeah, I have begrudging respect for a lot of them. Yeah, I mean, if you're going coach, like John Beilein was just great.
Oh, I mean, John Beilein's the best, right?
Yeah.
You couldn't hate that guy.
Nobody
I hated that
hates
I
him.
couldn't hate him.
I know.
I hated that. I respected him too much. And and the way he brought up that Michigan program is just unbelievable.
And shocked me. I mean, I saw his West Virginia teams and their whole offense just running around and jacking up a three. And I remember my whole position was like, you can win games like that, but you can never win a national title, which, I mean, he didn't, but he got there
close.
twice, and I never thought they
damn
would.
close.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the top 10 tacticians in college basketball when he's active.
I have a lot of respect, too, that he changed so late in his career and started, coaching defense and emphasizing defense towards the end.
Yes.
So I have a lot of respect for him.
I hated that we loved him. I mean, there's
I
not
hate that I love him, too.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
He's a class act. He's smart. He's, like you said, he made adjustments and just a great guy and phenomenal coach.
Yeah, that's a good one.
This one you might have to think about for a second. We might have to have Ben play some music. Which 3 Spartans do you take to dinner? Now this is
Does that count coaches?
Coaches, players, they can be living, dead, doesn't matter. No restrictions.
wow.
Anyone that either went to Michigan State or coached for Michigan State.
Okay, well, it has to be Mel Tucker, number 1.
Mel's number 1. He's really in
I'm
there
going to
quick.
try to get him to smoke a cigar with me or something.
He would do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would do it.
All right, so Mel would be number 1. Number 2 would be Cassius Winston, because I just love Cassius, and I've wanted to meet him. Hi, Cassius, if you're watching. And then number 3, we'll throw Kyle Arns in there.
Kyle?
That will be a very interesting dinner party, I think.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, as much as I love D'Antonio, he would definitely not be on the list.
Not a great dinner guest.
No. You actually
Maybe a
have
beer,
Yeah.
Maybe a beer with D'Antonio would be fun.
That'd be cool. I like your list, though. Okay, so we'll wrap here. Favorite MSU alternate jerseys? It doesn't have to be football. Our little picture has football, but your favorite alternate, non-traditional.
Okay. It's not the neon jerseys.
Thank goodness.
Sorry
That was
to
a
break
troll job by
everyone's
me.
heart.
The neons are ugly.
They are ugly. Do the state script count for basketball?
Yeah.
Because those by far, I think, are the perfect uniform. They're crisp, they're clean, there's a history behind it, and I just think they're perfect. And you've got a nice little neon sign in here with it on it.
The studio is representing.
And I would have killed to see that on a football uniform, which Maryland, obviously, we didn't have that game. But Mel said he was going to whip out the state scripts. I would have loved to see that.
My brother Sean, who's like the only guy with a weirder Spartan obsession than me, like with his basement, he made a good point to me the other day with the helmets. Like, we all love the Gruff helmet. We all wanted it.
Oh, I loved the Gruff.
But I'm curious to see what Mel Tucker and the branding does with a full offseason, because as much as the Gruff was fun, I don't know if you saw any of those concepts that were on Twitter. It was like the whole helmet. It was white.
I feel like it should have been bigger, though. I think
Right.
they could have gone a little bit bigger with it.
They're just right
if we're
now.
nitpicking, though.
Well, it is, and we're thrilled that
Yeah.
it is nitpicking. But like, if you're going to finally do it, like all they
Go big.
basically did was had the green helmet and they slapped
Just slapped
the
a sticker on it, yeah.
It's not really like a new design.
But like a white helmet with Gruff would also be really cool, too.
Yeah, the one I wish we had the graphic pulled. I didn't even really think about it, but yeah, there was one that one of those Twitter wizards was on, and it's like
there's so many good mock-ups.
so many. But this is like the best helmet ever. It looked like the like peak Oregon Ducks, but it was white with like the entire helmet being the Gruff. It was awesome. We'll show you after.
Yeah, I'll have to see it.
Yeah. So anyway, you did great. Are you appalled by my presence or my opinions on anything? Do you think you'll come back?
Not at all. Of course I would come back. I think we've had a great time. I think we balance each other out well.
The yin and yang.
Yeah. I bring a little bit of the optimism, and you're there to kind of temper that. So
Yeah,
I like that.
Oh, luckily you say a lot of smart things, because sometimes I end up like bickering with my guests. Actually, that's more the norm than the deviation from the norm. I will say, I am open about this, and not just saying it because you're across from me, but I consider you one of the in that top 2 to 3 follows for the Michigan State Spartan Nation.
Thank you.
And your success in the realm has, I think, spoken to that.
Thank you.
There's certainly a large segment of the fan base that despises me and is no fan of mine. And I think they like, is it the sausages or something, or is it
It's another meat.
yeah, some other kind of meat?
Yeah.
So they are not my biggest fan, and it's funny. My block list is like 6 advertisers that have annoying ads that bug me, and then like 94 people with the bacon emoji. So it's like I just called my block list the bacon list. But anyway, so you coming here when so many people in that Spartan Nation, maybe not my biggest fan, because I do think I'm a cynic. I appreciate it. And you had a long drive. You came all the way from, was it Grand Rapids?
Grand Rapids, yeah.
And you made it in one piece.
I did.
Your boyfriend is sitting across from me.
Yep.
He's just off camera. But
Yep.
so, yeah, shout out to James for being
And
here.
I didn't kill him on the way here. So
did
that's
you
good.
drive? You drove?
I drove, yep.
So we appreciate you coming here. We know
Yeah,
it was
of
a
course.
haul. You are staying at the Royal Park Hotel in Rochester, where I got married. It's an awesome hotel. You're going to go see it tonight, and you're going to see the pretty lights. So we appreciate
I
you
can't
coming.
wait. Well, thank you for having me. I had an awesome time.
Please come back.
I would love to.
Let's
Yes.
let's do maybe a round table with DK. That would be fun.
Oh, that would be awesome. I would love that. I haven't met DK yet, so that'd be great.
Make sure you do some like neck workouts, because I'm 6'4".
He's super tall, yeah.
Oh, he's a specimen. There's a picture of him on the wall. You can see at the top left of our little collage there, Tara. But like, he towers over me. So yeah, he's like really fit. The guy comes in looking like Lex Luger or something. It's crazy. So anyway, appreciate you being here. Love to have you back. Let's do it with DK. I'm sure he'd be down.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
You're awesome, and everyone should follow you at Tara Stafford.
Thank you. Thank you.
Check her out. It's been a pleasure. This is the Spiro Avenue Show. We have a really fun episode. It's in pencil, not pen or marker or Sharpie, but a very nice episode scheduled for next week with James Edwards III. He's actually been in studio once before from The Athletic. He's going to help us make some sense of what the hell the Pistons are doing. I'm not sure exactly what the Pistons are doing.
No.
I think I like what they're doing.
It's kind of exciting, right?
Yeah, well, it's they're doing something different.
It's something.
And James, who's also a Spartan, by the way, is a great guy and one of the best writers in the whole state right now across the board. Certainly number one in for my money in the Pistons realm. So he'll be in next week, looking like Tuesday, working on nailing that down exactly. So stay tuned. We have the solo show coming up very soon, working on some sexy graphics for that. Thank you again to our sponsor, the Smuggler's Son, Virgil's Vineyard. Please check them out, virgilsvineyard.com. I'm going to send my good new friend Tara here home with the classic Zin Blend Red. So you said you like red wine, right?
I do like red wine, yes.
You are going to love that. That is
thank you so much.
It's honestly my favorite wine.
Look
it is
at that
so
design, too.
good. It's very cool. Yeah, they're called the Smuggler's Son because his dad was a smuggler during Prohibition. How cool is that?
That's a really cool story behind that. That's
great,
really nice.
Great family, the Kippers. So check them out. And shout out to Ben, our producer on the other side of the wall here. He is the great and powerful Oz, doing a great job as always, busting his ass. Shout out to Eric Williamson doing our graphics, in his boxers on the couch. He never shows up anymore, but he does still work here. And we have a lot coming, so hang in there with us, and it's going to be good. It's getting better and better, and Tara was certainly a bucket list one for me. We're happy to have you.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
This has been the Spiro Avenue Show. Justin Spiro, tune in next week. We'll be here. We'll be back with you. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for making us part of your day. We'll see you soon.